Behind the smile, the silent struggles of depression in aging America. In America, where morning church bells echo through clean streets and orderly traffic, old age is often pictured as a gentle journey, a time to set aside work and savor family joys. But beneath this serene facade, there are quiet shadows, depression in the elderly, a common yet rarely named affliction. The causes aren't always dramatic shocks, but rather a slow erosion, loneliness without a confidant, being overlooked within one's own family, chronic illness, financial strain, the loss of loved ones, or simply the sense that no one needs you anymore. When usefulness fades, many seniors feel like decorative relics, seen but untouched. In this article, I share the stories of 6 American mothers, women who once were the heart of their families, now facing the 6 most common triggers of late-life depression. They are Marie, living alone in Arizona; Ruth, seen as a burden by her children; Linda, battling Parkinson's solo; Dolores, scraping by on assistance; Elaine, widowed after 52 years; and Nora, whose voice goes unheard. Each woman is a raw slice of America where old age isn't always as peaceful as it seems.
Marie, loneliness on the 12th floor. Marie lives in Phoenix, Arizona. At 74, she's divorced, childless, petless, and rarely gets a call. Her small, tidy apartment has a cactus on the balcony and a crackling old radio that hums each morning. Her only friend is the librarian she sees every Friday. "I was a nurse," she told me over tea. "I knew how to give shots, change bandages, keep people alive. Now I'm just learning how to live day by day." Marie spent a decade as an ER nurse, where ambulance sirens were part of her pulse. But after retirement, the calls dwindled. Colleagues built their own families. Her last regular caller, her sister, died 4 years ago. Lately, she dreams of falling into a well, her cries unheard. She says, "I don't need anyone to love me, just someone to ask how I'm doing."
Ruth was a strict but devoted mother of 3, now scattered across America with families of their own. At 76, she lives in a small apartment her eldest son rented for her in suburban Pittsburgh, 40 minutes from his home. "Rest, Mom. Don't worry anymore," her son said when moving her in. "Just enjoy your golden years." But Ruth finds no joy. No one needs her cooking, her advice, or even her presence at family gatherings. Once, Ruth was the household's command center. She taught her kids to read, cooked every meal, knew every scrape, allergy, and lost baby tooth. Now, calling her son often gets a text. "And a meeting, Mom." At her grandson's birthday, Ruth brought a homemade chocolate cake, her son's childhood favorite. But her daughter-in-law had ordered a fancy store-bought one. "We'll take your cake home," her son said awkwardly. Ruth carried it back to her car, chocolate crumbs still on her fingers. Since then, she calls less, afraid of being a bother. She started a journal, not for anyone to read, but to remind herself, "Today, I'm still here. I drank water, read the paper, and remembered my son's first day of kindergarten." Her role as a mother, the keeper of the hearth, feels like an outdated coat, folded away, waiting for someone to remember it. Linda, a body betraying me bit by bit. Linda was an elementary school teacher in a small Ohio town, loving the sound of the dismissal bell and the smell of new books. After 35 years, she retired proudly, expecting a rewarding chapter. But life had other plans. At 70, Linda was diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. It started with slight hand tremors while pouring tea, then progressed to slow steps, jumbled words, and sleepless nights from spasms.
I taught kids how to write letters, she whispers. Now I'm relearning how to hold a spoon. Living alone since her husband died of lung cancer 8 years ago, her only daughter is 2,000 miles away in California. Early on, she managed grocery runs, but once she forgot to turn off her car. Her doctor advised her to stop driving, a moment she felt stripped of adulthood. I'm not afraid of dying, Linda says. I'm afraid of living unable to care for myself. She spends hours in her favorite armchair, staring out a window no one enters. A nurse visits twice a week, out of duty, not affection. One day, she tried standing without her cane. She fell, lying there nearly an hour before calling a neighbor. Since then, she avoids mirrors, unwilling to see the once strong woman now unsteady. Her pride, which once was her strength, now makes her quieter, less likely to ask for help, and less likely to smile. She helped kids learn to read, but no one knows what I am trying to say now.
Dolores, an empty savings book and sleepless nights. Dolores was a waitress in a small New Jersey diner for nearly 30 years. No degree, just strong legs and quick hands, she says. Regulars called her the Golden Girl for memorizing their orders. She retired at 68 after a fall injured her knee. Insurance covered most costs, but her small savings vanished with hospital stays and meds. Now 73, Dolores survives on less than $1,000 a month in Social Security. Rent eats up most of it. Food, medicine, even haircuts require careful budgeting. Some months, she chooses between blood pressure pills or the electric bill. She once dreamed of living with her only son, a truck driver, but he's always on the road with no stable home. He says he thinks of me, Dolores says, gazing distantly, but thinking doesn't pay rent. She avoids pity, still dabbing on lipstick for grocery runs, but at night, when the street quiets, she lies awake with unanswerable questions, like, if I get sick, who'll notice? If I die, how long before anyone knows? Once she called a senior assistant's hotline for extra aid. The young worker asked, "Do you have any assets?" Dolores laughed. "Honey, if I had anything valuable, I wouldn't be on this call." Her smile isn't bitter, just weary, a reflection of a life used to scarcity, but not to an old age so devoid of companionship. Elaine, losing one person, losing a world. Elaine and Harold married in 1965, living on a small Kansas farm where spring smelled of fresh grass and winter winds crept through wooden window frames. For 52 years, they were rarely apart for more than days. Harold died suddenly of a heart attack one October afternoon while fixing the chicken coop. Elaine heard the thud, ran out, and her world stopped. "He didn't say goodbye," she repeats from those early months. Each morning, she brews coffee for two, sets out 2 mugs, and uses one. The other sits untouched, a ritual to keep Harold present. Her grown children, living far away, attended the funeral and returned to their busy lives. "Stay strong, Mom," they said, then vanished into meetings and emails. Elaine understands. They have their own lives, but the emptiness doesn't shrink. After 52 years, you don't just lose a husband. You lose the person who reminded you to wear a scarf, who watched old movies with you, who argued over burnt barbecue. You lose part of yourself. She speaks less now. There's no one to share the day's small stories with, no one to bicker over the TV's volume. It's not freedom, it's drifting without an anchor. On rainy nights, she plays old songs Harold used to whistle, sitting silently, staring out the window, as if waiting for someone from another world. They say time heals, but I think it just teaches you to live in a world missing someone forever. Nora, when no one needs your voice. Nora was the liveliest woman on her block.
At 50, she hosted weekend cooking classes, baked cookies for church, and led local volunteer groups. "I can't sit still," she'd say. "Idle hands make a messy mind." But retirement at 65 changed everything. She planned to write journals, tend her garden, and travel, yet those dreams faded. Old groups dissolved, friends died, moved, or got busy with grandkids. Her cooking classes emptied. People preferred YouTube tutorials over an old lady's stories. Nora doesn't blame them, but her heart wilts. "No one needs me anymore," she whispers. She still rises early, dresses neatly, brews coffee, but there's no one to talk to. She tried blogging. No one read it. She posted garden photos online. No likes. Eventually, she stopped posting, stopped writing, stopped arranging flowers. "Some days I don't say a word," Nora says. "Not because I have nothing to say, but because no one's listening." She joined a senior center art class, but no one spoke to her. They stuck to their cliques. Nora smiled, sat alone in a corner, and left early. Better to be lonely at home than feel out of place in a crowd, she decided. At night, she blasts the radio to fill the silence. "Just hearing someone else's voice makes me feel like I'm still part of a moving world." Wrinkles tells stories society doesn't want to hear. Marie, alone on the 12th floor, waits for a knock that never comes. Ruth steps back from the kitchen chair where she once ruled family dinners. Linda sits in silence, hands trembling, unable to button her shirt. Dolores counts every dollar in a nearly empty savings book. Elaine sets a coffee mug by an empty chair, untouched for 52 years. And Nora keeps her radio on, a final effort to prove she's still alive. 6 women, 6 stories, different circumstances, shared pain. The feeling of becoming surplus. They don't need praise or hero titles. They just want a check-in call, a request for advice, a spontaneous hug, or an afternoon sharing old songs. In America, the land of individual freedom, the cost can be isolation in old age. There are nursing homes aplenty, but not enough emotional presence. There's no shortage of medicine, but a scarcity of listeners. There's aid, but not always purpose. What they need most is recognition, not for titles or roles, but for their very existence. They aren't invisible or worthless just because they've aged. And for us, rushing through life's grind, the smallest acts can matter. Calling mom, asking what she ate today, learning her childhood recipes, or just sitting beside her, saying nothing at all. Old age isn't frightening if no one is forgotten,